Hello, and welcome to our latest episode of What's on the Horizon. I'm Lori Sharenbrock here with Chris Schucker of Digital Horizons, and today I want to talk about Apple TVs. We've been considering getting one at home, and what we all love about the Apple products is that they, integrate so seamlessly with one another.
The ecosystem, yeah.
Yes. So, do you need to can you just have one in your house and do multiple displays, or do you have to have one in each room? Do they talk to each other? How does that work?
So technically there is a way of doing just one in a home, but it does require a fair bit of extra hardware to take the single video output of the one Apple TV and get it to the televisions, which has to be done over HDMI. So there are ways of doing that. And in some instances, it can make sense to do that. Maybe if you have a, integrated audio system throughout the home and you want the audio sent to it and you have your amplifier is remotely located. It can be done, and we do things like that.
Sure.
But for, a more practical application, maybe where you don't have an audio system tied in, it's better just to have an Apple TV per television. It's probably worth clarifying what an Apple TV is.
Yes.
So we're in 2021, almost 2022, as hard as it is to believe, and we're in the age of streaming. While traditional TV service through cable and satellite is still very common, a lot of people are getting some or a lot or a majority of their content via streaming services. And you can get to those streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube TV, you name it, through a number of different ways. Current televisions, smart TVs, have those apps built in. And if you don't want to use those, or maybe your television isn't capable of it because it's not current enough, or maybe it was smart 5 years ago, but now it's no longer smart, it's been outdated, you can install a streaming device like an Apple TV, a Roku, or a less desirable to us, like a Fire Stick or something like that. And they just connect to your television, and then you download the corresponding apps for the services that you want to use, and then you have it on your television. So, in this case, you would have a device at each television. That's the most practical way of doing it.
Sure.
And our recommended device, because of the manufacturer, Apple, most of our customers use iPhones. There's a really good synergy between them, how the device works, and for a multitude of reasons, and really the only downside being cost, because of course it's Apple, it's got to cost more than every other device that's out there.
Yes.
They're our recommended device. So an Apple TV, it's not an actual TV, it's a small streaming device, and it's our recommended device.
And is there any problem having multiple of them in the home? Are there issues you can run into, or is it because it's Apple, it's pretty seamless?
Inherently there aren't any issues, but there's, anytime you have multiples of the same thing, there's a lot of setup required, and you end up, having some redundancy there. Not redundancy, but you have to go through and do the same thing multiple times. So there is a feature in the Apple TV, and it does seem to change its name for some reason, but effectively it's a way to make the home screen the same across all of your Apple TVs. And the way it does that is during the initial setup of the Apple TV, you will log in with your iCloud account.
Right.
And it uses that to create a baseline. So if you log in with your iCloud account and then you download 8 different apps, it's going to keep track of the ones that you downloaded. And if you have this sharing on, home screen share, I forget the exact terminology for it, it will then reference, it'll basically take the Apple TV that has, let's say you have 5 Apple TVs, and on one of them you have 15 apps downloaded, another one you have 4, and another 3, and another 2, whatever.
Sure.
If they're all logged into the same iCloud account and you turn the sharing function on, it will look at the one that has the most apps, and it will then download all of those on the device. The thing that you have to keep in mind, though, is because we're on the 6th generation of Apple TVs, they're not all created the same. They don't all have access to apps. Past the 4th generation is when they started allowing downloading of apps. And so if you have the 4th generation and forward, you shouldn't have any issues. But if you have 3rd gens or something like that, which is at this point, it could happen, but it's pretty unlikely. You can't download apps on there, so the syncing doesn't work. But that's one thing to do is to set up one Apple TV the way you want them all to look and then turn sharing on. An installation we just completed recently, there were 3 main TVs in the home, and then there were 3 guest TVs.
Okay.
And so we helped the customer set up the 3 main TVs so that all the apps were the same there. And then we didn't turn on sharing on the guest ones because, number one, they jokingly told me they didn't want their guests getting too comfortable. But then they wanted them just to have a limited number of options to keep it simple. Yeah. And so that's probably the best thing to do. The other really neat trick that you can do that I'm finding a lot of people don't know about, surprisingly, is once you log in to the Apple TV with your Apple credentials, iCloud, things like that, your phone, if you have an iPhone or an iOS device, if it's on the same Wi-Fi network, will act as the keyboard when you do search functions, which is particularly helpful when you're entering in login information for streaming services, because if your email is jeffrey@stupendousoutfittingdishwashers.com, like, I hope that's not a real email.
Sorry, Jeffrey, if it is.
You're going to have a heck of a time left, up, down, left, right, up, and just selecting those. Whereas if your phone is linked, you can type it out, which I'm much quicker this way. And you can do it that way. But in addition to that, if your phone is linked, you can use the dictation on your phone to fill in the search parameters. So let's say you're in Netflix and you want to search a movie. You use your remote to highlight search. And once you select the search function, and this is the same thing for the login credentials, there's a little pop-up notification that comes in. Would you like to use your phone as a keyboard? And you hit yes. And then you can use the mic on your phone to say Jim Carrey comedy movies, and then hit search, and then that'll pop up on Netflix. So that's a little bit different from multiple Apple TVs, but the search function and being able to type things in on your phone when you are doing it is really nice. Once you get your apps synced, the one thing that's kind of a pain in the butt about having multiple devices like this is you do have to log into your service on every single Apple TV. So if you have 5 Apple TVs and you want Netflix on all of them, you have to log into Netflix 5 times. Even though it syncs the app, it doesn't sync the login credentials because that's not Apple TV's job to save that. And the device, unlike your phone, where your phone has a service in it to save like credentials through Safari and things like that, it can't and doesn't do that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, does it know you from your phone? It
once you use an email address, it will know and say, recently used email, and it'll allow that. But yeah, once after doing that, then you still need to enter the password. There are some services that streamline the login process, like Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah.
It will, when you go to log in, it will come up with an on-screen display, and part of that is a QR code. And the neat thing with QR codes is now, and I don't know when they started this, I feel it was like iOS 10 or 11, but the phone camera built in acts as a QR reader.
Yes.
A lot of people have a separate app, which I ran into with a customer last week who pulled out their phone and opened the QR reader. I'm like, you can just delete that. Just use your phone.
Yep.
So you use your phone, hold it up there, and then it'll say, do you want to go to the Safari page? You'll click that, and then that action, logs into Prime, and you're set to go.
We actually just did that this weekend. I got my daughter on the Legally Blonde bandwagon, and we had to do that to get that up, and it was just so nice because I usually have to call my husband in because he knows all the crazy passwords because he does the good thing and does hard passwords, and I never remember them, so I have to text him from another room and say, can you come in here and do your magic wizardry. But it's nice to be able to do that. Any other tips, tricks, hints?
The challenge that we always face when we're helping people set up their Apple TVs is the credentials.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have a good system for keeping track of passwords. Some might show up with 2 black books and, not know which one's the newest one, and there'll be login information in both of them. And so obviously a completely separate topic, and maybe for a different trade, but having a system for managing your passwords is very, very important. And it probably goes without saying, despite everybody not doing this, you shouldn't use the same password across multiple services. And I mean, it's good to create a system that can vary. For me, I'll often use a phrase related to the service with different characters and numbers following it. So it is different, but somewhat similar to help me remember.
Yes.
But having a system to do that when you do get a service and you want to add it to the Apple TV, you're not, oh, honey, I don't know the password. I got to go online and reset it. And whose email is it under? Did you get the email? Try it. It's...
That's a familiar conversation.
Yeah. So that's a separate topic from, having multiple Apple TVs, but it's important.
Still something to keep in mind when you're using multiple devices. And it's just like one of those things you're like, oh, I want to watch, I don't know, whatever Apple TV. I don't have one yet, so I don't have their content, but like you want to watch whatever that is. Yeah. There's more to it than plugging it into a wall and getting it. So that's good to remember too.
Yep.
And I assume if people need help with those kinds of things, you're a great person to call.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just give them a call. Visit the brand new website.
Right.
Has the phone number right there at the top. Super easy to get a hold of. And they're really great at helping you figure out all those technology issues. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll catch you in the next episode.